I wish you guys knew the amount of staring into space that I do while I'm filming. These videos take me way longer to film than they should. Water break.
This is for the dance. My reputation has never been more so. You must like me from me. I can't make any promises. How can we, babe? But you can make me a drink.
Hello, welcome back, my little bookish besties. How are you? How have you been? It is a full fall mode in here because September is quickly approaching and I have already been ready for fall since the beginning of August. Honestly, probably before then, but now I can fully embrace it without feeling judged, you know? We're in the bird months. So in this video today, I'm going to be going over all of the books I plan to read in the month of September. As you guys know, school has started to pick back up, so I'm definitely quite a busy person right now. I have work every week, and I also do schoolwork every week, and so our TBRs are going to be very minimal, or as minimal as they can possibly be for what I have planned for content-wise, and then we're just going to mood read from there or read when we can. But let's just go ahead and dive right in and see what we have planned to read this month. And stick around and let me know in the comments if we have some of the same kind of books planned out or what you have planned out to read in the month of September. So the first one of my September TBR is always the one that's most important to me, and that is my Patreon book club read. If you don't know, I do have a Patreon. It's called the Dreamy Dragon Den, and I have a link down below in the description. We have a lot planned, such as Harry Potter read-alongs, movie watches, hangout sessions, and we also do weekly sprints over there. So we just have a really good time and it's a lot of fun. I love having my own little community where people want to get to know me more and I get to know them more, and I just feel like that's my home, you know, like that's my book home. I usually put out 3 options for the book club choices each month, and my patrons vote on what they want to read the most, and whatever wins the majority vote is what we read for the month. And I try to do a good mixture of genres as well as new releases and backlist books. So I normally do 2 new releases and 1 backlist book. And as I said, I try to span out the different genres as well. So this month, in September, my patrons chose Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid, and I am stoked for this one. I am a huge fan of dark, gothic, Victorian, like anything that is just kind of spooky or dark vibes, I love, and I cannot wait to read this one. I recently read A Study in Drowning this year and really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. It was super good. I cannot wait for the second book to come out, and I just know that I really enjoy Ava Reid's writing, and that's the biggest reason why I'm excited to get to this one. I also really love Shakespeare retellings or anything that dive into Shakespeare to where I can understand it. I don't know why, I just do. So I am super stoked about getting more into Lady Macbeth. It was probably one of my favorite required readings back in high school, so it's going to be fun to revisit it and get more of like a feminist dark take on it. And we'll be reading that one and then discussing it on October 8th. And I will probably be joined by my best friend Liv, because she is also a huge Ava Reid fan and loves Study in Drowning, and Lady Macbeth is one of her most anticipated reads of the year, so it's going to be a good time. And speaking of Patreon, I am also a part of a few different friends' Patreons, and one of them is Liv's, obviously. I love everything that she does over there, and so her patrons, including me, voted for this book, and it actually ended up winning her poll, and this is what we're going to be reading on her Patreon this month, and that is Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. This was actually the August book for Owlcrate, and I just got it in recently, and it's so stunning. I actually really love the regular edition that T. Kingfisher came out with. The cover is stunning. I love the gold. I love the geese on the inside. The foiling is just so gorgeous, and this one is just as gorgeous. So if this ends up being a really like good read, a 5-star read, I will more than likely be buying another edition of it as well. But just in case you wanted to see this one up close, this is what it looks like. The foiling is like a pinkish purple, and the spine may be one of my favorite spines ever, because we have these geese and we have feathers and moths, and it's just really stunning. I have yet to read a book by Kingfisher, and so I am a little bit hesitant going into this one. I'm a little nervous, but I'm super stoked. This one seems more of like a dark fantasy with some underlying like big plot topics, I think. So I am excited to get to it, but a little nervous. I own quite a few Kingfisher books, and I've just been stocking up because I really feel like I'm going to enjoy the writing and enjoy the stories, but I just haven't pulled the plug on actually getting into one of the books. So this one is going to be a good one, I can tell. And all I really know about this book is that Cordelia is a little girl, and the only real friend that she has is her mother's horse, which is named Falada. And she, you know, spends her days riding Falada and just spending time with him because that's the only friend that she has. That's the only friend that her mother allows her to have. Her mother makes her do some strange things, such as being silent for up to days on end, and sometimes she makes her be motionless and just controls her. And I know that her mother is a sorceress, so I've heard that this one goes into a place of, if you have a like kind of a traumatic or struggling relationship with your mother, and you might like this book. And so I am interested to see what my thoughts are when I get to this one. So the next few books that I have are going to be for a vlog that I plan to put out. I'm trying to do 2 vlogs per month. I did 2 in August, I'm doing 2 in September, and I'll be doing 2 in October. And they are all fall themed, so I'm very excited to get to them. But this one is going to be a paranormal reading vlog. So I'm going to be reading a bunch of books that have like supernatural or paranormal elements in them, and I'm stoked. Okay, this one I am really excited about. You're gonna hear me say that a lot coming up in some TBRs because I'm just excited for so many books right now. I am a huge mood reader, and I am always in the mood for literally every genre, I feel like, so you won't ever catch me not excited to get into a book. So I first read from this author this year and absolutely fell in love with her writing. Love the way that she writes stories, especially with horror elements. They're not too dark and they're not too scary, so I definitely feel like if you don't want to get into those dark and like dark places when you read horror, this author is the way to go. And I'm going to be reading Ghost Camera by Darcy Coates. You're probably like, Kendal, that book looks terrifying, and I agree, it does. This is actually a reprint of this book. It actually came out first in 2014, so this was written 10 years ago, and she did a reprint, and I'm super excited to read it. This one actually is short stories. I think it's a mix of 4, but I'm super stoked to get to it. It sounds so good, and I recently had 2 friends of mine who read this, and they kind of did a thing where they read it and then rated each story that they read. So I'm excited to do that and discuss with them and like figure out what my overall rating will be. But I have yet to read like a horror book that has short stories in it, so I'm stoked to see how this one will be. I feel like horror and thrillers are hard to have short stories with, just because you have so much that you have to build up to and get to the plot, so it's hard sometimes, I feel like, to write a novella or short stories. But I'm excited to see how Darcy Coates does it. So it says in the first one we're following Janine, and she finds this abandoned Polaroid camera, so she takes a picture of it, but she notices that there's a ghost that is just staring at her in the background, and it just keeps moving closer to her every time she takes the picture. And so she shares the secret camera with her best friend, and then they realize that this takes pictures of ghosts, but now every time they take a picture, it seems like the ghosts are getting closer and closer to them. So it sounds intriguing to me. It also has a story about a woman surviving a plane crash in the tundra, and she's apparently accompanied by a stranger who keeps fixating on something moving in the snow. It also says that it follows a house that stands empty and hungry, waiting for the children drawn to it like moths to a flame. And then it says there's a story about a woman finding a shoebox filled with old VHS tapes, and it has a note that says, "Do not watch, you'll regret it." And I'm assuming she's going to watch it, because why would anybody listen to that? So this one is gonna be really good for me, I can tell. So alongside that one, I'm gonna be reading a book that I have had on my TBR for a little while now, probably at least a year. I bought this book last year, and I was supposed to buddy read it with my friend Elizabeth, but I'm a terrible buddy reader sometimes. Sometimes I just get too caught up, or I read too slowly, and it just never works out. So if I have failed a buddy read with you, I'm so sorry. Let's try again. But she said that I'm gonna love this one, and I have high hopes for it as well. And that is Slewfoot by Brom. I have no idea what this one is really about, and I kind of like going into my books kind of blind, because that way I don't know what to expect, and I don't set expectations for the book. But I immediately messaged her, and I'm like, does this one have like paranormal aspects to it? And she said I could definitely count it as that. Some things that I love, this book has illustrations, it has some pictures like that, but mostly it has just creepy things that are pictured in the chapter headers, and it just is so creepy. And I just, oh my gosh, like I have a feeling about this book. But this is supposed to be more historical horror, which I don't think I've ever read before, but I have seen historical horror movies, so I think that's not going to deter me from it at all. And it just says that it says, an ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him father, slayer, protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, demon, devil. To Abatha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. I'm a little terrified. And the last book I will be reading for my paranormal vlog is Silence for the Dead by Simone St. James. I have yet, again, to read a Simone St. James book, but I happen to own quite a few. I just got rid of 2 that have been on my shelves forever, and I was like, if I come back to it and actually want to read them, I'll either get them from the library or buy them from like a secondhand bookstore. But I have owned this one for about a year now, and I don't exactly remember when this one came out. Okay, 2014. This is actually, I think, a reprint of her original cover, and so I really wanted to get this one, and I bought it on my trip to Washington last year, and me and my friends all got a copy. So I'm excited for it. I do have the book of Cold Cases, which I debated reading, but this one just sounds more disturbing. This one is taking place in the early 1900s, and you're following, I think, a nurse. Well, she falsifies her background, so she's not really a nurse, but she says she's a nurse. And I'm just gonna say, if I was falsifying my background, I would not choose nurse to falsify, because that is a dangerous position to be in, because knowing me, I would accidentally kill someone. But she ends up falsifying her background. She's running away. We don't know what from, and she ends up at this asylum. It's full of soldiers that fought in the Great War. I don't know really, but she is working with these patients, and she meets this patient named Jack, and Jack is very mentally unstable. He has a lot going on, but he is her only shot at figuring out what's going on with these mental hospital patients, because they're all having the same nightmare. Just weird things are happening around the hospital, and it just sounds very eerie and spooky. So I feel like if you add like a psych ward or an insane asylum or anything like that to a book, it definitely makes it even creepier than normal. So I am looking forward to this one. The next few books that I'm going to be reading are also for another vlog that I'm doing, and this is going to be a haunted house vlog. So I honestly love haunted house themes in books, in movies, in anything really. So anytime there's something mentioned with that, I'm automatically wanting to know more about it. So I really am looking forward to getting into this vlog, and I'm hoping to watch maybe a movie of a haunted house, do something fun. I don't know. So we'll see what happens when the time comes, but it's going to be a good time. So the first book that I'm reading has not actually come out yet. I did get approved on NetGalley for an ARC of this book, and it is Haunt Sweet Home by Sarah Pinsker. I have never read anything by this author before, but Tor is the publisher, and honestly, anytime Tor puts out a book, I just know that I'm probably going to enjoy it. Even if I don't rate it highly, I'm still going to enjoy the ride, so I'm really excited to get to this one. I actually just found out that it's more of a novella than it is a book, so it's only 174 pages. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see how a horror novel is going to be that small and give us all of the haunted house vibes and plot that we need. Don't really know what's going on in this book. All I know is it says that Mara lands this job as a night shift production assistant on her cousin's ghost hunting / home makeover reality TV show, which is called Haunt Sweet Home. So her cousin is like hunting ghosts and doing a remodel of the house as well. It's a very like weird show to have, I feel like, but to each their own. But she is in charge of like hiding fog machines in woods and improvising scares to like scare homeowners that are just now buying the house. A bunch of incidents start occurring, and apparently there's a creepy new co-worker who Mara has to confront, and it just says that it is a multifaceted supernatural exploration of finding your own way into adulthood and to yourself. I just feel like that's what I'm trying to do now. As I am getting older, I feel like I am constantly trying to figure out who I am, where I belong in society, and different things like that. So I feel like it'll be a fun and spooky way of learning about that kind of thing. So surprise, surprise, I said that I have never read a T. Kingfisher book, and now I have 2 on my September TBR. That was totally accidental. But I couldn't help like what won Olivia's Patreon book club pick, but I did choose this one, and that is A House with Good Bones. This is the paperback edition that just came out. I love this cover. I don't know why, because it's vultures and flowers, but it just calls to me. We're following Sam, and she is going back home to North Carolina to spend time with her mom. She has a really good relationship, I think, with her mom, from what I understand, and she's just looking forward to, you know, binge eating ice cream and watching murder mystery shows, and, you know, having those kind of moments with your mom once you're grown, and like just visiting her and seeing her. But when she gets to her home, she realizes that her childhood home is not as warm or inviting as it used to be. Her mom is very jumpy, very skittish now, and she just has painted the walls white, and it just kind of is freaking Sam out, and Sam doesn't really know what's going on, and she ends up finding some things that don't really make sense. And so I don't know, this one I really just do not know what to go into it thinking. And again, I'm trying not to set any expectations for what I think is going to happen, but all it says is that it explores the dark, twisted roots lurking just beneath the veneer of a perfect home and family. So I'm excited to see what T. Kingfisher does with this one. And the last book that I'm going to be reading for my haunted house vlog is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. This one came out last year, I believe. Sorry, it came out in 2022. So I'm definitely pretty behind on this one. But somebody said, first off, Marie Claire did a blurb on this book set, and it says, for fans of Netflix's Black Mirror and Taylor Swift's song Nobody No Crime thrilling. First off, Taylor Swift's song Nobody No Crime is my favorite one on her Evermore album, and I love Black Mirror, so I'm super stoked for this one. Olivia she read this last year and really enjoyed it, and she told me immediately that this was definitely a book that I needed to pick up because she knew I would love it, and I trust her completely. And I also love how we have like a pink cover and a house that literally looks like it's dripping blood. I know that in this book Vera is going back home even though she really doesn't want to, because her mom is insisting that she comes back home. So Vera's dad was a serial killer, and apparently he hid bodies at the house and they had no idea. So I can imagine why Vera wouldn't want to go back home. I certainly wouldn't want to. If I knew all of those kind of secrets, or, you know, if they're not secrets anymore, if I knew all of that information, I would be scared to go back home as well. And when Vera comes home, she finds out that her mom is renting out their guest house to this really strange artist who was just very creepy, and Vera does not trust them at all. And all of a sudden these notes are starting to pop up, and they're in her dad's handwriting, and she knows that that shouldn't be possible. I don't know if he's dead or in prison or what, but I know that this one is going to be thrilling, and it's probably going to scare me, and I'm just here for it, honestly. Okay, these next two books I'm not really going to go into much detail about because I feel like you guys have already heard about these books. I feel like everybody who's a reader has heard about these books, even if they haven't read them. But last year I started reading Harry Potter because I had never read the Harry Potter books before. I wasn't allowed to as a kid because, you know, witches, wizards, magic, blah blah blah. But anyway, I'm grown now, so I can read whatever I want. And I choose to read Harry Potter. But I read the first 3 books and then I kind of fell off. I tried to fit too many of them in at a time because I think I started trying to read them in November and December thinking I was going to get through all 8 of them, and that was not happening. So anyway, I am doing a read along on my Patreon, and I'm going to be reading 2 books a month from now until the end of the year. So we'll read the first 2 this month, 3 and 4 next month. In November we'll read 5 and 6, and then we'll read 7 in December, which will be good because the 7th book is the biggest book in the series and it'll take time. But we're also reading the books and watching the movies, and we're doing like a little movie watch party. So it's gonna be a really good time. I'm excited to like read the book, watch the movie, and then read the next one and watch the next movie. And we're basically gonna do that for the rest of the year. But obviously the first 2 that we're reading are Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. These are the Scholastic, like a Scholastic edition of Harry Potter. I really love these covers, and when you put them together you get Hogwarts Castle, but you can't see it all obviously because I only have the first 2 books. But as you know, this is a series that follows a 12-year-old boy who gets up to some magic, and he finds out he's a wizard, and he goes to Hogwarts, which is a school of wizards. And yeah, it kind of goes from there. So I'm excited to get into these and watch the movies and just have a good time discussing Harry Potter. I feel like it's always fun to get into a new series, but when you get into such a big new series, it can be intimidating. But I feel like doing it with my patrons and friends will be a better time. And then, as if those books are not enough for me to read for the entire month, I am adding 3 books to my TBR that if I have time to get to them between vlogs or reading for Patreon or anything like that, these are just kind of what I'm in the mood to read right now, and so I wanted to put them on the TBR as well, just in case I'm able to get to them. So the first mood read book that I'm adding to my September TBR is The 13th Child by Erin A. Craig. This book comes out at the end of September on September 24th. And I'm a huge fan of Erin A. Craig. I've read House of Salt and Sorrows, and I read House of Roots and Ruin. I've yet to read Small Favors, but I think it's just because I don't want to officially be done with her books and not have one to get to at some point. And so I'm really looking forward to The 13th Child. I feel like she's releasing this at the perfect time because it's going to be a gothic, dark fairy tale retelling type of book, and she just writes spooky elements so well. She has a way of writing that immerses you into her settings, and you just can't help but get immersed into the characters and the plot and what's going on. And I just cannot wait for this one to come out. And I want to say a special thank you to Random House and to Gailey for approving me of an arc of this book, because I cannot wait to get to it, and I am the audience that this book is trying to get to. One of my good friends, Hope from Hope on the Coast, is actually reading this book at the moment, and she immediately messaged me and was like, you are going to love this book. And so I literally cannot wait until I start that. But I made a promise, because me and my friend Elizabeth from Little Life of Books, we are very much some of Erin A. Craig's biggest fans. And we always said we were going to buddy read this one together because we did buddy read House of Roots and Ruin together and we had the best time. And so we are waiting for the moment that each of us is available to read it, and we will start it. But the only thing I know about this is, like I said, it's kind of a gothic dark fairy tale retelling. It's a retelling of the Grimm brothers' dark fairy tale titled Godfather Death. One thing I do love about Erin A. Craig's books is that when she does a dark retelling or kind of brings in dark elements to stories, she brings them to stories that I've never heard of personally. The only one that I've heard of is from House of Salt and Sorrows, was loosely based off of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and again, she just does it so well. But I love that it's so niche and it just draws me in every time. The next one that I want to get to is the third and last book in a series, and I think this is the last book. I said that, but I don't know. I really don't. I don't know if this is the last one. I don't know. I shouldn't have spoken that quickly about it, but this is Wisteria by Adalyn Grace. This is from the Belladonna series. Belladonna is the first one, which I read last year. Absolutely loved, literally obsessed with it, gave it 5 stars. And I recently just read Foxglove, which is the second book in the series. Again, loved it, 5 stars, just as good as the first one, cannot complain. Again, this is like a dark gothic murder mystery type of novel, and it's got young adult vibes. It also has romance mixed in as well. You have these beautiful, exquisite, dark mansions and manors that are mentioned, and you also have the character of Death himself mentioned in these books. So Wisteria is the third book in this installment, and I'm not going to go into a ton of what it's about because that would give away spoilers for the first book, I believe. So anyway, I'm just really hoping to get into this. Again, Adalyn Grace is a young adult author who is one of the reasons why I will be reading young adult books until I'm 50 years old. And that is because I just fall in love with her settings and her characters, and she just knows how to write a lyrical and beautiful story. And the last book that is on my TBR is a book that I have wanted to read since the moment I bought it, but I was told to wait as long as possible until the fall months get here because I would just be so much more immersed if I wanted like a seasonal read, and that is Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek, I think is how you say the author's name. I'm not 100% sure. This book is gorgeous, and I've heard that if you love like folklore and folk tales, you will love this book. It's very much kind of cozy fantasy, but a little bit of dark elements as well. And I've seen a few people compare this to a Studio Ghibli movie, which, if you know me, I love Studio Ghibli movies and I will watch them until the day I die. So I cannot wait to get into this one. So we're following Liska. She is our main character, and it just says that she knows magic is a monstrous thing and the people who practice it are monsters, and she's done everything to kind of suppress her own magic so that nothing bad happens. But she is desperate to just be free of everything, be free of the village, and be free of feeling like she has to hide who she really is. And so she ends up fleeing and runs into this dangerous demon-infested spirit wood to steal this mythical flower. And if Liska is the one to pluck this flower, she will be granted one wish, and that one wish she wants to use to get rid of her powers. So everyone is after this flower, and every time somebody goes after it, things end up happening, and it's never a good outcome. So Liska is caught by the demon warden of the wood, who is called Leslie. So Leslie is like, I will not hurt you or anything, you will not die, but you have to make a bargain with me, and that bargain is that you are going to serve me for 1 year, and in exchange I will let you have this flower and you can have the wish. So I would take that deal because, again, it's better than dying, and obviously Liska doesn't want to die. So she is whisked away to Leslie's manor, and Liska finds out that she's not the first person to make this bargain, but all the people who have made this bargain before her have disappeared. So if Liska wants to survive and return home after a year, she has to unravel her host's spool of secrets and face the ghosts of his past. Because apparently there's something that wakes in the woods, and it has no mercy for its victims that it takes. and it apparently even frightens Leslie, which is kind of scary considering he hunts demons. So it's definitely giving me Howl's Moving Castle vibes, and also it kind of, the girl Liska, the fact that she's hiding her powers, it's giving me Elsa and Howl. I kind of feel like they would go together kind of perfectly. So I'm going to definitely be getting into this book as soon as possible because it's just exactly what I'm in the mood to read, and I cannot wait. So you'll probably see me reading this one very soon. But those are all the books that I plan on reading or trying to read in the month of September. We'll see how it goes. Definitely stick around for the vlog content and everything that's to come, especially since it's going to be fall themed, because I know we all thrive and love fall so much. But thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. If you will, please leave a pumpkin or a ghosty emoji to show that you made it to the end, and I will see you guys in my next video.